Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Game Plan Podcast by College Baseball Advisors. I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. My background is college baseball coach from 1992 to 2022, and I currently run College Baseball Advisors. For more information about what I do, please visit my website, collegebaseballadvisor.com. And if you want a free copy of the new college baseball roadmap, simply go to go.collegebaseballadvisor.com/roadmap, enter your email, and it will get sent right to your inbox. Today's episode was really cool. First time we've done this. We had four guests, all prep school coaches in the state of Connecticut. We had Todd Mathewson from Canterbury, Donnie McKillop from Loomis Chaffee, Ty Wosleger from Westminster, and Andrew Dixon from Choate. And we covered all kinds of stuff from their playing background to their coaching background, the schools themselves where they live and work, the baseball programs, life for students, athlete, baseball players at their schools, what they can do in the recruiting process, reasons players choose those schools, whether they choose them to enter a ninth grade or as a reclass player or as a postgrad player. So we had really a fun conversation, kind of hearing how these guys run their programs, which are basically like college programs. The schools, the way they look, the educations that they're getting, obviously kids living away from home, eating meals all together, year-round program development from baseball. It really is a college program that these students are attending and playing for baseball. So hope you really enjoy this conversation with these four. Without further delay, here it is. All right, guys. As I said before I hit record, we have an unprecedented thing on the Game Plan podcast. We have a group thing, and I'm really psyched this came together. We kind of talked about this with a couple of guys I ran into at Mohegan, and then it just worked out. When anytime you put five people on, scheduling is not the easiest. So I'm glad we actually got together. And then, Was, when your appliance gets delivered, as we know, you just said you'll skip out for a few minutes and then come back in. So. The other piece before we kick it off is for a fun little group chat, we know this, but the people watching don't. We put in our Super Bowl predictions. We're recording the day after the Super Bowl. And Todd, even though you are a Pats fan, you did predict, if I'm right, it was 27-13, you said, and
Yep.
you're basically 2 points off, which is ridiculous. So sorry that you lost the game, but you won the podcast thing. So here's what we're going to do as the first question. This is what I said prior to this and this. I'm going to ask a couple questions. They're going to go around a few times. And then after that, we'll sort of open up and whoever just jumps in and then other people can comment off that. So Todd, let's start with you with your playing, your baseball playing, and then coaching background. Obviously, you're at Canterbury, but so kind of if you want to introduce yourself and then just go with your playing background and then your coaching background.
Yeah, Todd Mathewson. This is my 13th year now at Canterbury. My playing background, as Maz knows really well, my dad was a college coach and actually coached with Maz for a few years at Sacred Heart. So grew up around the game and as part of the game, and loved going to his games at Quinnipiac when I was really young, and then in Sacred Heart, and played at North Branford High School. Went on to play at Clark University. Had a great career there with Coach Falcon, and was lucky enough to break some school records in my senior year, and had a good career there. Stayed on for one extra year as I was getting my MBA at Clark, and was a graduate assistant there for 1 year. After graduating, was the director of baseball and softball at a Frozen Ropes in Orange, Connecticut for about a year or so.
I remember that. I remember that
So
place.
back when I
That's
was at,
right.
at Frozen
Yeah.
Ropes.
Yep.
So did that, and then was at Greens Farms Academy for about 5 years. And now was at Canterbury for 13. And in the summers with Baseball U Connecticut, and have been there for, I don't know, about 17 years now, I think it is. And then, stops when I first started coaching with the Connecticut Bombers with Coach Tercio. I coached the Legion team in the Cape and did some different things when I first started coaching. But, for the past 13 years, it's been, Canterbury and Baseball U.
Awesome. That's perfect. Was?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne, for having me on. It's a pleasure, first of all, to be on with these guys, four of the best coaches in New England baseball. And so to be on your podcast is pretty cool, kind of a full circle moment. But this is my 6th year at Westminster as the head coach. I was previously at Hotchkiss for 7 years, so 13 years in prep baseball, 11 of those as a head coach. Pretty proud of what we built here, and that comes from a foundation of I come from a baseball family, so my two younger brothers both played college baseball. My dad was always a coach, Wesleyan, Choate. He's with us now as a hitting coach. And that's sort of, I didn't have much of a choice growing up, right? Playing with my brothers and with my dad, and was an all-state player at East Hampton High School. That was pretty cool to play with the buddies I grew up with, and then went on to play 4 years at Fairfield University. In those last 2 years under Coach Currier, who's done quite a lot with the program then and since I've left, and he's in his last year there, but he's done wonders with that program, and proud to say I'm an alum of Fairfield University baseball. I also spent 2 summers playing in the Northwoods League. I was fortunate enough to play there, so about 140 games between those 2 summers out in the Midwest, and have been able to help place some of my players who have gone on to play in college out there, which has been pretty cool. And here we are today getting ready for another season, and hard to believe it with the weather outside, but happy to be on and start talking some baseball.
We'll get back to you on this possibly, but at Mohegan, you were talking with Coach Smith, who's now at Michigan, about when you guys were at Fairfield and you went out. Was it the Arizona State regional you were in?
It was the Austin regional at Texas.
Okay. But you
And,
played
it was
them?
actually my younger brother
Oh,
was
okay,
part of
got
that
it.
Fairfield team, so it brought up some bad memories for Coach Smith.
Yeah, I saw you kind of digging into him there, which is good. That was good.
Yeah.
All right, Donnie, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne, and yeah, great to be on here with all these great coaches. It's been a fun ride in prep school. I came out from San Diego, California, where I grew up, born and raised. So bring a little Southern California flavor to the prep roads. Learned about these places from going out to play at Middlebury College up in Vermont. Was a two-sport guy. Was a little too short to be a Division I quarterback, candidly. So ended up kind of going to the NESCAC route, and was really appreciative to be able to play both sports, football and baseball. I was able to captain both programs at Middlebury, and learned a lot. And I went into prep school. I thought for a year before I was going to study for some LSATs, get into being a lawyer, and then I stayed in the Northeast for good, and fell in love. I went to Williston first, right out of college, and was up there teaching history, coaching football, basketball, and baseball, just kind of diving into the prep school world, and kind of fell in love with the lifestyle. So getting to share meals with kids, and see student athletes kind of beyond just the classroom walls, and just on the field. And then ended up going back to get my grad degree in athletic administration at Springfield College. Was queued up to coach baseball there, but ended up getting a full-time grad assistantship for football, so they helped pay for my degree there. And ended up going to coach with Smitty at mid, in his last year at Middlebury, and then ended up kind of being immersed in Connecticut baseball when the job at Loomis came open, and dove into travel baseball with the CT Blue Jays for a few years, and then got into the Collegiate League of New Britain Bees, and then I kind of part-time a little bit with MVP New England. In the summers, coached a couple games with Ty in the dugout a couple summers ago, but not involved in one particular program. Kind of just bounce around now in the summertime, and kind of serve in baseball. Still be at those Bees games. Still close with Getty, so he allows me in the dugout. It's probably my favorite summertime coaching. And then obviously been at Loomis now for 9 years. So this will be my 10th spring coming up here.
One question before you move on, Andrew. Did you played 4 of baseball and 4 of football at
Yes,
Middlebury?
sir. Yeah,
I'll,
yeah.
I'll tell you now, because I went to Gettysburg to play, in essence, what I thought was going to be both. I played football my first year, got the crap beat out of me, and realized, like, the many years later, I realized if I would have stuck with it, I would have actually seen the field. But then I was like, I got no shot, and I played baseball remaining 3. That's really impressive
Yeah.
to do those 2 things, and possibly thought you were going to be a lawyer. You're way smarter than you look, Donnie. You're
I
way
appreciate
smarter than
that.
you look.
Yeah, I got a great face for radio. I'm nervous about this podcast.
All right, Andrew, your turn.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, for having us on here. This is a really cool experience, and yeah, my path is a little bit unique. I'm certainly probably the worst player on here. So as close experience had these guys. I'm from upstate New York originally, and went a junior college route. That was kind of my path, and pretty much always knew I wanted to coach. This was kind of the goal. I was going to play as long as I could and start coaching. There was really no other kind of plan in place for me. This is all I've ever really wanted to do. Grew up around baseball. We had a single A team in my hometown. Single A was the Yankees for a while and the Tigers, and a buddy of mine, his family owned the team, so I used to be in the locker room and on the field pregame, and so this was kind of all I ever really wanted to do. But went JUCO and then went down south, wanted to find something warmer. Went to a small school in Kentucky, Brescia University. Had two more great years there, and then kind of started coaching right away. Started coaching there, bounced around to a couple other small schools in Kentucky, Indiana. Was actually the head coach at the small college level at age of 25. Was my first head coaching job at Brescia, which was a great experience, and then really wanted to kind of get in Division 1 and a higher level and see a little bit more. And so was fortunate to go from Brescia up to back up to the Northeast, went to Lafayette College as an assistant, spent 2 years there before going to Northwestern for a brief stint. And then from Northwestern, I went back over to the East Coast, back to Yale, and then spent 3 awesome years there with Coach Stuper. And then yeah, kind of fell into the prep school stuff. This was nothing that was really on my radar, and didn't really know, much about it or what to think. I'd been to a few games recruiting and stuff like that, but when first kind of came on campus here during the interview process, was really just kind of blown away once I learned more about it, and kind of Donnie's point earlier, like the lifestyle, the balance of it has just been an awesome thing, and really the best thing that ever happened to me and my family. We live on campus and have a 2-year-old who just loves coming to games and running around, and it's a very unique lifestyle, but something we've really enjoyed.
It's interesting. I'm definitely jealous of you guys in that the times I go up to these campuses, it just seems, and my son went to postgrad at Suffield. It's very family environment. It seems a very wholesome way to get your fill of coaching and working with young people, but a nice family environment too. And I'll tell you, listen, I'm sure if I threw all four of you said, hey, listen, you could be the head coach at Clemson, you'd probably take it. But it's a lot, it's a lot of pressure, it's a million hours. I think in a lot of ways you guys have such a great gig going at these schools because it's more than just obviously the baseball. So Todd, let's go back to you. We'll do this round robin again twice, which is I want you guys to briefly just talk about your school, and then we'll go back and talk about the baseball program because and I grew up on Long Island. I didn't know about these schools. Well, you guys already said, Donnie, same for you. Were out West Coast. You didn't know about these schools. Andrew, kind of similar. We know about these schools and how good they are and how competitive they are and how all these things from an academic and a baseball standpoint. But a lot of parts of this country do not have these types of schools or understand what they're about. So, Todd, let's talk about Canterbury just as the school itself, not counting baseball.
Yeah, and before we do that, just to piggyback on what you were just talking about, the family atmosphere, we have a 10 and 8-year-old, and we have 2 young girls who aren't that young anymore. I can't believe that old digits, but and it's the same thing. Just we live in a freshman and sophomore girls dorm, and to go hang out with the girls and to just be at not only my baseball games, but just to be at games all the time. And my wife does the playing musical, and to be a part of that, and just it's just a great environment to raise our kids. And I think that's also, leads into Canterbury as a whole. We're probably the smallest school on here of the four because we only have about 330 total students. So it really is a smaller school. But I think, I'm sure all four of our schools are going to talk about the community aspect that we have. And I truly feel that at our school is that, just being small, being close knit, the students are supporting each other so much, and just being at each other's games. And if somebody makes a college commitment, they won't announce it at school meeting, but their best friend will announce it at our school meeting, and just talk about how proud they are of their best friend, or things like that. So I think that's one of the things that separates us just from some other boarding schools, is that we are on the smaller side of things.
And
Again,
Todd, that's for all of you, just to make sure that's 9 through 12 and postgrads.
We are 9 through 12 and postgrads.
Okay,
Yep.
got
So
it.
we are
Got
9
it.
through 12 and include postgrads. We're in New Milford, Connecticut, which is just a little bit north of Danbury. And my main job at Canterbury, in addition to being our baseball coach here, is director of studies. So one of the things that I love is that I really get to oversee academics. And, way to look at it is I'm the advisor for all 330 students here, and really get to work with our student athletes, both, in the classroom, and oversee what they do academically in addition to athletically.
Perfect. All right, Was, you?
Yeah, so I think Todd touched on all the key points in terms of size, community, small classes, seeing kids in the dorm, sharing a meal with them, as Donnie talked about, seeing them in just different areas. Maybe it's a sport that that's not their main sport. You go watch them play a lower level sport. But so Westminster is 430 boys and girls. We're about 75% boarders, 25% day students. And I think that's the piece that sets us apart in some ways, is we're in a great area. It's, Simsbury is a great town in terms of things to do, schools as your kids are growing up here, restaurants, you name it. Simsbury's right at the top of the list in Connecticut. And so I think that's a huge benefit to us to attract not only kids and their families, but great faculty members and coaches. I would say it's also an area where the surrounding towns are really good in many different sports. And so that enables us to go out and fill those 100 or so day student spots with kids from some towns where they've had a great education growing up. They've had a great experience in youth sports. And so we can get some pretty good athletes in here. Baseball wise, we've had as many as half of our team, maybe even slightly more, be day students at times. And they're certainly a big part of our community. They're staying here into the evenings. They're participating in weekend activities. And we make it a point to make sure that they're included, so there's not this divide between day students and boarders like there can be at some private schools. So I think that's a piece that sets us apart, just location up on the hill in a town like Simsbury. Outside of that, I think, the other three guys on this call, the schools that we work at, are all similar in the way that it's an outstanding education. It's small class sizes. And more than anything, it's faculty members who care. They want kids to have success. They're not clocking out at 3 o'clock and saying, see you tomorrow at 7. They're seeing them in so many different ways. And I think that helps build the relationships that we all talk about, but that's how it's done.
The last thing I'll add with you, Wask, because we have this in common, the other three might, I'm just not sure, is we're big dog guys, so dogs are a big part of our lives. I mean, you told me once there were like 50 dogs or something on campus. Like it was like
Yeah. So my
Right.
wife is dean of students here. The class that she just went through with the class of 2025. For those who don't know, the dean of students, at least at Westminster, stays with the class from freshman through senior year or post grad year or whatever it is. And so she's doing another cycle around here with the new freshmen. So the class of, what would that be, 2029? And she and I are both big dog lovers. So she has a running list, and I think there's currently 46 dogs on campus. So we have two black labs with baseball names, Yogi and Tug, and they run around with their buddies here pretty much every day. It's kind of the ideal life for a dog, wouldn't you say, Wayne?
Big time. I brought my dog up and my dog had a blast, although, I was helping out with the fall program you had, and my dog I thought was going to chill out while I was on the field. He wasn't too happy not being with me. But all right, Donnie, let's go to you about Loomis.
Yeah, so we're kind of a mid-sized school. We're 750 students. So that's boys and girls, again, 9 through 12 with a post-grad class as well. We are in Windsor, Connecticut, which is kind of a greater Hartford area. We are right off of that 91 shoot, which is great. The location for us is awesome, as Ty is talking about, kind of really good access to a lot of great restaurants, a lot of great opportunity. We're actually like a 15 to 20 minute drive from Westminster as well. So my daughter skates at the old ISCC there in Simsbury. But there's a lot of great spots around us. I think the town is really nice, and we've got an Amtrak that pops right onto our campus, and we're 10-minute drive from the airport. So I think our geography puts us in a really good spot for kids to come in from all over the world. We recently have a kid right now from Hong Kong. We've got another freshman from Tokyo. So I think one of the pieces that's really cool at these schools is the international player as well that comes in and boards on campus. So that's been a fun component of our program. And just having, as Ty said, too, the local players in Connecticut. I've been really impressed with the level of Connecticut baseball since I've come in from out of region. And so we have a 25% day student ratio as well. And we have a pretty big school, so we still have another 500 boarders on campus. So we kind of get the best of all worlds. And I like to say that at Loomis, you get kind of your best experience for you. Our requirements allow you to have a lot more freedom of choice. Some of the smaller schools, you kind of have to do specific things each term, and I think here a lot of our guys are able to do multiple. One of the guys you're working with is a big swimmer for us. And so, we have some kids who are playing basketball right now, some soccer players, some big football players. We actually helped a kid who was a big pitcher for us, and then his arm went out. Now he's going to play college football. So there's definitely, a good piece of kids who do the multiple aspect, but also, now that there's a lot more opportunity to specialize, there's on-campus, sports performance and things that we've really grown our athletics department to support the student athlete experience. And I think that's where we've committed a lot of resources at the school that has helped kind of set us apart. And we're really competitive in every sports sphere, which is really sweet. So when our student athletes are working out together, it's pretty competitive in the weight room and competitive on the fields. And that's not just baseball to baseball guys. It can be, those crossover athletes in the same weight room with a couple strength coaches kind of helping them through their workouts and competing. Some of those fun like med ball games. And so you see a lot of competitors, and it's fun. I'm the associate athletic director here. So a lot of what I do is I'm around a lot of like the recreational time with kids. And so I'll see kids in the gym and, like the basketball players who are doing well. And a lot of those kids will manage our baseball team, and our baseball players will manage, the girls volleyball team, or different components of campus to be involved in the community. So it's a really nice, tight-knit space and a great location and a good size school too.
Two things there.
Yep.
First of all, Was just got a lot younger as his picture popped up there. I hope that comes on in the video. Before we get to Andrew, I just want to say this, that people that don't know what these schools are like and have actually never been, they will be blown away. All of your campuses are gorgeous, even if like they might be 10 minutes from it down. They're all these beautiful, they're basically what you feel like you're on a college campus. And frankly, you'll all agree with this. Some of them are nicer than college campuses, right?
Yep.
So it is that vibe. So Andrew, why don't you talk about Choate?
Yeah, Choate in particular is nicer than college I went to, that's for sure. And I'm reminded of that every day. My wife and I, we came here not having any boarding school experience, and we're like a little unsure first year, doing dorm duty and doing kind of the things and trying to figure it out. And I remember we were walking out of the dining hall one night, and it was like around kind of Thanksgiving, and they had done a kind of one of those big meals, and we went to the same small high school in upstate New York. And we were walking out, and we looked at each other and we're like, can you imagine going to a place like this? It was like a really like kind of eye-opening experience. It's just, and we've really have to, like I said earlier, kind of grown to love it. But yeah, our school is one of the larger ones. We have 860 students total, which I think is the third largest in New England. And I think the largest in Connecticut, or one of, certainly. Same thing as the other guys, like 75% boarders, 25% day. I think one of the unique things with our campus is, so we're located in Wallingford, Connecticut, and Wallingford is a nice small town, but our campus is really kind of next to the downtown area. And one of the things that I think is really unique is that Wallingford is considered an extension of campus, and so students can walk downtown whenever they want to. They don't need to ask permission and things like that. And that's really unique, but we've been out to dinner or out for, grabbing breakfast on Sunday morning and seeing students around town and that kind of thing. I think is just a very unique experience because some campuses are a little bit more remote. And so I think that particularly with our postgrads, they kind of enjoy some of the freedom and things like that. But yeah, the campus is, as you mentioned, is beautiful. Notable alums like JFK and I've been shocked since I've been here at how many times like I'll get a text from a family member and Choate was mentioned on like a TV show, or it's a very historic school with a lot of prestige, certainly on the academic space, and those are some things I'm still learning. My role here is assistant athletic director, and my title is actually for student and coach support. So I work with all of our student athletes, helping them navigate the recruiting process, and that's across sports. So I'm a kind of a college recruiting liaison for them, and just trying to help navigate different things, and it's different certainly for sophomores or juniors and seniors and different kind of steps along the way. So that's kind of my main role at the school, as well as overseeing athletic facilities. and working with our grounds that does an awesome job taking care of, this whole campus. So yeah, it's a really cool place. And like you said, it feels like a college. I remember walking off of here in the interview and I was like, this is a college. This is a college. And it takes a while to get used to realizing that some of these kids are, even 14, 13, 14, years old and have a lot to learn. But that's, part of our job is helping develop them and hopefully, allow them to achieve their ultimate dreams and goals.
You must have, we probably won't have time to cover it on this, but the fact that you're a recruiting liaison and you're dealing with all those sports, it must be interesting to see the differences in recruiting sport to sport. Like, I only deal with baseball because you start talking about hockey and foot, it's just a different, some of these other, the process, if you will, is the same, boy, it's a very different world. But Todd, let's go to you. And again, I'm going to go back to this. If hopefully Was will leave him at the end for this. If not, we'll move on to the next thing. But can you talk about the school in terms of baseball and whatever you want to share? But more of what I would think people would want to know are, what kind of field setup, what kind of strength and conditioning setup do you have? What do the guys do when it's February and it's 1 degree outside, as we all seem to have here? So whatever you want to share about the baseball program at Canterbury would be great.
Yeah, I think, one piece, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more, but I think we have a lot of players that are like-minded, and what I mean by that is guys that want to play at the next level. I kind of did before I came on, I looked at this, and in the last 10 years, we had 67 players go on to play, at the collegiate level, and 28 at the Division I level, 7 at Division II level, and 32 at Division III level. So we're averaging, almost 7 players per year playing at the collegiate level. So,
Mm.
if you look at our roster now, we have 12 players that are committed to play in college, not to mention some younger guys that eventually will be playing at the collegiate level. So we're probably at about 17 or 18 total college players on our roster. So I think that's part of, and Donnie was talking about this earlier, with guys pushing each other to be really successful. So, even yesterday when it was negative degrees out, I had a couple guys texting me to come throw BP, over winter weekend, some of our local guys, and I'd, go in and throw some BP to the guys. So, I'm getting texts right now about guys wanting to hit this afternoon. And again, they're not on campus yet, but a lot of local guys or guys coming back want to work. So I
Can I
think,
ask you this question to you
yeah,
first? And you'll maybe you'll answer for the whole group, but is it known, would it be safe to say that the level of play at schools like yours is much better than your standard public school in Connecticut? No, not being trying to be, you know, rude about it or whatnot. And there, we know there's some really good high school programs, but I
yeah.
mean, just as you said, the number of commits and these kids are there, they're really the level of baseball. You guys see some legit players in your conferences, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at Donnie and Andrew kind of nod their heads as well. I think the level of play, it's different. I think having, and we'll talk about reclassing, I'm sure, a little bit later, but having the amount of kids that will either reclass or come as postgrads, and they're just big, strong, physical players, and it's just a really competitive level of play. So yeah, not a knock against any of the public
Right,
schools
right,
around here,
exactly.
but it's just, the level of play at the prep schools and in my 13 years here has just continued to get better. And I think that's something that we've seen just prep school baseball across the region just continue to grow. And we have a partnership with ATP, who I know Josh Heenan obviously very well. And those guys give all of our guys individualized workout programs. So they're able to do an initial assessment in the fall, and those guys give them workout programs, and our strength guys here at Canterbury will let them kind of do their thing a little bit, because they know the program that the guys are on. And guys are pushing each other in the weight room, guys are hitting every day, our pitchers are on their off-season throwing programs right now, indoors, and they're starting to ramp up their throwing. So I think that's really what you get is when you come in, you're just in a culture of guys just wanting to hit every day. If I'm taking my girls to dance and I can't throw to them one day, they're like, they're hitting on their own and doing their thing. But, these guys just want to get better. They always want to take fungos. They just, want to push each other to succeed. So I think that's really, the difference. And we try to cultivate that. We have about a 50-page playbook that we use that just breaks down our core values and our offensive and defensive and pitching philosophies. And, my wife actually just ordered our mental game bands that the guys wear. So, they'll wear that, around their waist. So it's actually not signs that we have, but, their mental keys that they have, whether it's hitting, pitching, fielding,
Very cool.
that they use and really, try to, again, the only way that I know how to do it as a college program. That's how my dad kind of raised me and being around so many college coaches. So, with the exception of the off season, we do have a lot of guys that are about half our team is playing, hockey or involved in some way with either hockey or football or, basketball or another sport. So I would say with the exception of the off season where guys need to do it on their own and we can't really have off season practice that they have at a collegiate level, I would say everything else around the program, whether it's our practice plans or what we do, is very similar to a college program. And I know that the other guys here, run their programs, in a very similar manner.
It's perfect. And Ty, we'll get to you now that you're a man with a new appliance, a fresh appliance of some sort. But I wanted to say this is it just dawned on me. I kind of knew this, but hearing you say that these places that you guys are at are basically look like mini colleges. In the classroom, they're taking college level, getting prepped for college. And the way you described it, it's almost like it's like you're running a D3, if not a D2, one program for the baseball too, with their access to strength training and to all that stuff, which is really cool. So Ty, just to remind, we're just getting an overview of the program. Can you talk about life as a baseball player at Westminster?
Yeah, I think you just nailed it in terms of it's a hybrid between high school and college, if not even tilting more towards a college program, just because these guys, most of them, especially if they're a boarder, they're on their own in terms of time management and balancing their academics with their athletics and a social life and taking care of their bodies and all of those things. And so what I would say in our baseball program, like the other three guys on here, we're trying to develop guys, and the proof is in what does our college placement look like? Do guys get better from the time they arrive, whether that's a PG that's here for 9 months or a 4-year guy? And so what we offer is we have a great weight room. We have a strength coach there. So in the fall and in the winter, guys are expected to be in there. Nothing is mandatory here, of course, but with good leadership, players holding each other accountable, guys are in the gym, whether it's groups of 2 or 4 guys, or some days it's more. And we carry that, of course, into the spring where we're in the gym for more maintenance, based mobility, agility, those kind of things. Whereas the fall and the winter is their time to get bigger, faster, stronger, a little bit more recovery based in the spring. In the fall, captains practices, we do have some outside coaches that come in on occasion and run workouts for the boys. Because I'm big on, the mental side of the game, but also team unity. And so just guys being together and not waiting until February to gel, I think is huge, because we've all been around those uber talented teams that don't achieve what they're capable of because, there were some selfish guys or whatever it may be. And so getting the boys together through our team leadership in the fall is critical. We do things in addition to the baseball piece, like having the guys over for, burgers and dogs on a nice fall day, or, hey, we're going to go down and support the other Coach Wass in the girls soccer program and watch the game, and guys will be running the lines and guys will be leading the student section as they make their way through the New England playoffs. So just doing things like that to build team chemistry is just as important, if not slightly more important, than the skills that they're building throughout the fall. We're fortunate enough in terms of facilities to have a 70-foot indoor cage, 2 junior hack attacks, every resource you can imagine for guys to get better and to challenge themselves. And we do spend a fair amount of time on mental performance. So I'm a Brian Cain disciple, and we talk a lot about the mental side of the game, whether that's classroom sessions or having a mantra, or certain guys, working in small groups with how are we going to overcome adversity. And so I think that's a piece that I wish I had more of as a player. And I think it really makes a difference at this level, certainly at the college level. And then I once heard a pretty successful professional coach say, once you get to college, whether it's D1, 2, or 3, all these guys are really talented. What separates who goes on is, what's between the years.
Yeah, no question.
Setting that foundation while they're here in a highly competitive program in a highly competitive league is critical, because even if they don't go on and play college baseball or professional baseball, you need those skills in your life. And I think, dealing with the adversity in all walks of life is important. And it's going to come in the course of a baseball game, probably several times.
Yeah.
So we focus on that in addition to the physical pieces in the weight room and making sure they're eating right. And I think the benefit to having guys here on this campus in that college-like atmosphere is you can build that team chemistry if you do the right things in the fall, and it pays off in the spring. So that's a bit of what our development looks like.
Awesome. All right, Donnie, go ahead.
Love it. Yeah, and definitely admire all the guys' programs there in this picture. I think that's probably why you bring us all together on here. I think the overview of it really at Loomis is we're going to be about 45 to 50 baseball guys in each baseball program year. And that's a varsity and a JV team. So I would say I kind of facilitate a whole program. And the moment you arrive, we're going to be giving everyone access to our group chat. Everyone's going to Florida, in March. So it's really kind of an open door policy for us, and it's really created a really cool family environment where anyone who loves baseball at Loomis can find a role at Loomis and get the most out of them. So I'd bring a little bit of like my public high school playing freshman baseball, then JV baseball, then being a role player, then earning it and playing with 5 major leaguers at my public high school. It was a real interesting program. We had to kind of climb your way up. So I think, in our program, I really make sure that our older guys are really pouring into younger guys. And I think as these guys all mentioned too, the college commitment list. I mean, when you come to these places, you're gonna play college baseball. And I think for us, like right now, we have 3 college captains, 2 are juniors, one's a senior. We might have a couple more, honestly, that don't tell me. They just wait for it to be, announced somewhere. So we've got the Yale captain, the MIT captain as a junior, and a captain at Holy Cross as a junior too. So it's when you talk about equipping kids to lead each other, I think that's another component where prep school is unique in its fall and winter. We live here, so we are accessible. As I turn on the lights for kids. As Todd said, you get a text to go open a building or be in a space. And I think for me, what I always tell kids is like, if I'm going to do that, sometimes I'm just going to bring my family. And I think it helps create like a barrier of there's a lot of sandlot play here in the fall and the winter where like I think about on Tuesday night I was operating a gym with a 70-foot cage and I had 3 daughters and my son and I'm flipping them baseballs as my pitchers are working in one corner, my 2 catchers are working off a junior hack attack with each other, and the hitting guys are going through their progression in the cage and I'm just literally flipping softballs to my daughter. And I think there's an advocacy that kids get at these boarding schools where they learn how to operate as independent kids and work with each other and create team. We have 60, the last 7 years, we have 65 college commitments, but I think what's really important to me is we have 105 members in our like alumni group chat. And so every kid who's been in my program from, the bullpen catcher to the kid filming in left center as a manager who was on JV for 3 years, or the kid who in 2022 caught our final out was one of 2 players who on my entire roster who did not play college baseball. But the kid was a junior on JV, and when we had some injuries and things come up in 22, our second baseman from San Francisco caught the last ball. Should have never been on that field, but was a great player and really worked hard in the spring. So I think what's really unique about Loomis is we're going to have 20 out of 22 college baseball bound players on that best roster I had. Yet the same 2 kids are going to feel just as much value in the program being a part of it. And I think I learned that in kind of my high school years, fighting for a role as a junior and then being able to be a starter in both sports at Middlebury. The ability to kind of talk to the last kid on the end of the bench was really important for me, because I remember getting that time from really good players. And so I think, teaching kids how to handle those conversations, how to be part of a JV and a varsity program, being institutionally loyal, being involved as a lot of these guys were talking about, like going to other people's games, practicing another sport. If you're a pitcher only, like just play basketball in the winter, protect your arm a little bit, just kind of some of these little pieces that we're all going to battle as the 4 guys on this screen. And I think our affiliation with a lot of good travel programs, there's a lot of good trainers out there. And so it's being humble and collaborating with people, and just bringing together good baseball people. Because these kids, I mean, we play in our league. It's a when you said this, it's gotten better. I mean, it's a knockdown every game you play. And when you're looking at the guys on this screen, you're going to get the ace when you face each other. And I'm trying to add Todd as our final non-league game because we want that level of competition when we're out of league too. Because when we go in league, it's fierce. I think the two leagues that you're talking to, the Founders League and the Western New England League, I mean, they're really top dog teams. There's only a couple where you're not going to have, double-digit college baseball players on a roster. And so the consistency in play, our schedule in the Founders League has moved to Mondays being a big playing date, which has been really cool for us, because it brings a lot of guys locally into the region to watch our players. So there's exposure, especially with our location being very central in Connecticut, is really easy to get to. So some of the baseball I've seen here has really reminded me of what I grew up in at home, and I think that's what sticks me in when you talk about the spaces we've stayed. I mean, it's really, there are other jobs that open. And if, as these guys I'm sure would attest, when you talk to your cabinet of professional mentors that you build in your young time here, everyone's like, well, make sure like the grass ain't greener everywhere you go, and that ambition of a college win here, a college game there, this job that opens. I mean, when we get to go and compete against the guys on the screen, you still get that same adrenaline. We still get the recruitment. We get the college placement. For me, I'm fortunate to be here for now. Like I said, this will be my 10th spring, and we've played 7 regulation founder seasons. We've won 3 of them. It's something that the boys come back, they support the team, and I've run a dorm since I've gotten here too. So like same kids who were cooking meals in my kitchen of my common room are coming back year in and year out. So I think the family component of the whole program that's on the baseball field and then in the dorm is really a unique space that it's just a really bizarre community that you won't really understand unless you enter your foot into it. Especially if you're from outside and you tell your friends like, "Hey, I live," and my door shares the wall with 36 high school boys. They kind of look at you like you have 10 heads. But we can still host an adult Super Bowl party and have a lot of people in a space, and you open the door, it's like there's where all the kids are. So it's a unique lifestyle, but it's fun. So really, really cool out here.
Awesome. All right, Andrew.
Yeah, I think that like all these guys have said, like I think for me, my job is I feel like is to try to run our program like a college program. Most ways I don't really view myself even as a high school coach. Like I came from the college level, and that was kind of what I really knew and what I wanted to do. And I really try to kind of bring that, model to here. Like I want, our goals for our players is that one, our mission statement is we want to help our players achieve their goals after Choate. Most of the time, that's going to play college baseball. We've had some that choose not to. We want to be able to support them in any way to achieve their ultimate goals. The second thing is I want our players when they get to college and they're playing college baseball, I want their first practice. I want it to feel like they've been there before. Like I want them it to be a familiar environment in terms of, just the practice setting. And I want them to feel like they're more prepared or just as prepared as any other freshman that they're competing against. Particularly when you have guys that are coming here as reclass and they're trying to gain that experience, and then they're going to college, and we all see the average age of college players is just getting higher and higher. We want our guys to feel like they can compete, early on when they get to that level. And so I think that's kind of a big part of our job. And for me, it really started with when I first got here. We had 4 years ago, we had 3 college committed players on that first team. We still found ways to win games in a really gritty way. But we've been able to increase the talent. And for me, it was like when we started to kind of look at players we were supporting in admissions, the prerequisite was we wanted more players that wanted to play college baseball. We had to raise the floor of the program, and that's something I've been really proud of that we've been able to do. And now 4 years later, we went from 3 college committed players in my first year, and now we have 9, 6 going Division I. And so, and now we feel like now we've got to continue to maintain that. But that was really kind of the arc and really the goal for us was to get more of those guys. And then to Todd's point, once you get those guys, it just creates an environment where they are pushing each other. They're working really hard. We want to continue to bring in guys to compete for jobs and compete against each other, and then certainly compete together on the field. And we do some I think unique things here. Ty's point on the mental performance stuff is awesome. Choate invested in that. We now have a mental performance coach here at the school.
Wow.
He lives right next to me on campus, which is great. So we get a chance to chat quite a bit. It's something that I've already kind of been doing and really passionate about, and we're able to really expand that now. We also do some stuff with our players where we do personality assessments. So anytime a player is coming on campus, the first thing we ask them to do is a DISC personality assessment, and that's really helped kind of shape how we coach our players, how we work with our players, and then also how our players work with one another. And that's been really cool to see. Right here is kind of our circle chart of our team, and you can kind of see where everybody's at. And the other day, one of our catchers was in here, and he's looking at it, and he's talking about, he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense because, and he's talking about his teammates and trying to understand each other, and just really helps kind of build the chemistry of the relationships, with one another. And then the access point is something that's really important to me in terms of our players having access. When I first got here, we had one indoor cage that took up it was like a 90-foot cage. There was no point of being that big. It took 12 guys to set up. It went across the basketball court, so our guys could never hit. And that was the first thing. I was like, we need access for our players, and we were able to come up with a model where now our guys can hit. This building, the athletic center I'm in right now, this building opens at 6 a.m., closes at 9 p.m. Our guys can hit anytime. We have machines in there. I can go throw and now you see when the class day ends, there's 10, 15 guys there every single day. And so that's a big shift for us from where we were a couple years ago. Is just guys that have the ability to and then want to go work to compete and play at the next level.
So this is a couple of things. This is awesome for, I know with this many of us, there's times you're just listening to the other guy, but if I'm not mistaken, I see a couple of guys taking notes as they hear the other guy going, "Ooh, I like that stuff." And this is really, really awesome. So my next question, I'll ask it to you, Todd, and then other guys can jump in, or we can go to it's almost been answered already. My next question is what are the reasons baseball players are choosing to come to these schools? However, we've already talked about, I want to go back to high school and play for you guys. These places are awesome. So I think I'm going to tweak my question a little and ask this to you, Todd. Are most of the kids coming to you coming for baseball? I assume they're coming to Canada and baseball while they still want their education and they want all that stuff. It seems to me the guys are coming to you, and baseball is a huge driving factor in that. Is that accurate, Todd?
Yeah, I think it's certainly accurate. And I think one of the things that we do talk to our guys about, especially, for example, a post grad that's coming in who's likely already going to be committed before they show up to campus, is if you're waiting till the spring and you just want to play, 25 more baseball games, that's not a reason to do it. So we really talk to our post grads about having that 100% buy-in to all the things we've talked about. The smaller classes, continue to grow academically, continue to take their transcript here to here and be prepared for the next level. Our postgrads are typically boarding students, so it's again just living on your own, creating positive habits, whether it's academically, athletically, socially, all the things that they're gonna need to do when they get to college. And I think, if you look, and I'm gonna say this for all the guys, when you look at guys that played prep baseball that then show up on college campuses, they're prepared. And I think that's one of the things that we sell to the guys is we are going to give them all the tools to be as successful when they show up, in college, to be prepared academically, to be prepared socially, and certainly to be prepared to compete for playing time when they arrive on campus.
So I'm going to ask kind of a follow-up, and one of the other three guys can answer this. What would be, because I get asked a lot in my position as an advisor, what do you think? Should I go? And I generally say this and hope this doesn't, this is what I tell them. I'm seeing if you agree. And I always say, listen, if you kind of love where your school is and you're happy in a classroom and you're happy with friends and you're happy with the sport aspect, I'm not sure I see a reason to leave. If there's something about it, from the educational piece, the baseball program, you don't like the group of people, it's a no-brainer to get at it, to leave that situation. So I guess maybe I'll just ask this to you, Was. Is the only reason, why would a kid not go? It seems unbelievable. And without being, is money because the schools are not cheap. Is that, if you get a no from somebody, is the cost the only reason? Because it seems why would you not go to these places?
Yeah, so I would say that there's certainly a fair amount of sticker shock when you browse the website and look around, and then you want to know if we're like colleges in the way that we have a certain scholarship allotment that we can give out. And I know Choate and Loomis, and I'm pretty sure Canterbury, we're all need-based financial aid schools. So while we can support student athletes and certainly recruit, we don't have a ton of say over the dishing out of money. And so we're up against it in some ways because, post COVID, there was certainly a need to reclass. I would still argue that you should push back your enrollment, but every situation's different just because of roster sizes shrinking and things constantly changing. And then I would say, it's great, Wayne, if they answer the questions that you ask about being at home and everything being great, but that's comfortable. If you want to take it to the next level and you want to not just bide your time as a freshman, sophomore, and maybe play as a junior or senior, but you want to come in and fight for playing time as a freshman, it's not a bad idea to go to a place, especially if you're going to board, learn how to manage your time and get, bigger, faster, stronger, eat well in the dining hall, because we certainly all have plenty of good options there. And there's so many resources at these places, from the strength coach, obviously the baseball coach, the four of us know what we're doing, but then you have teachers who care about you, can help you in areas that you might be a little bit weak as you prepare for college. There's college counselors to fine tune your application and things like that. And I would argue all of our college offices are going to be pretty robust compared to most public high schools. So yeah, you can stay home and you can be comfortable and you're with your friends and you don't try anything that's tough. But if you come here, you're going to get a higher level of baseball. You're going to compete for playing time for likely for people who have played and coached potentially in college. And then when you go off to college, the chances are one of us probably knows your college coach, and they're going to ask and see how are things going on your campus. And, maybe that translates into, hey, he's crushing it. He's taking that transcript to a higher level. He's in the weight room all the time. And that puts you on the right path as a freshman to maybe compete for some playing time. So that's what I would say. And I don't know about the others in here. I'd love for somebody else to jump in, but it certainly can be a tough sell. It's tough enough in the Northeast just because of that price. But when you get outside of the Northeast, you're spending a fair amount of time doing what we're doing right now and explaining what are the benefits to this place, because it's largely a secret outside of the Northeast.
Well, I'm going to comment on one thing, and I'm actually, Donnie, I'm going to have you go next, but I may ask you same question in a different way. Is that I'm thinking, Was, as you were explaining that, you're almost all these things these kids need that they're getting a la carte. Boy, if you add them up, yeah, right, Donnie,
that's exactly right. Is I think as you're talking about, when you listen to us, right, you're talking about the college process that your coach is running, and we talk a lot about the mini college that this kind of place represents. I think it really is like the student athlete is going to probably lead with the sport, and that's going to be their primary hook into the community, and that's what they're most interested in chasing and accentuating their different experience, and that is going to be the lead often, right? And that's candidly where I think these schools have gone, is now the hook that people are specializing in is what all these schools want, a variety of students with a variety of different hooks to build this unique, excellent community with a lot of people who can get to really cool places, and bring unique perspective from backgrounds. And so now when your student athlete gets here as a baseball player, instead of having, a strength coach 30-minute drive that way, a hitting cage 20 minutes this way, a math tutor for the SAT this way, a college guidance consultant doing this. So even if you have the resource to afford all of these things, the time that your family has to spend, especially if you have multiple children, multiple sports, a lot of it is just consolidating all of these aspects into one thing. So like we have two full-time strength and conditioning coaches, and then we bring in interns from Springfield, interns from Merrimack. Like we'll have 4 to 6 strength coaches in your room with you 4 times a week and 5 times a week, or 6 if you desire to do it on Saturday and Sunday. It's we have a dietitian who came from the Royals organization. She has already spoken to all of our teams. Like that is a full-time employee at the school that's teaching you how to eat at our dining hall, how to go grocery shopping in town, what the cheat list is. We've got, a full-time physical therapist on site. So if there's ever a setback, you don't even have to leave our campus for your PT work. So there's all of these pieces. We've got your Rapsodo pitching, your Rapsodo hitting is here. The cages are here. In the fall, there's outside time after you're lifting. In the winter, we've got indoor facilities, and you don't have to leave. If you want to do it with a certain person, you can. It's not, we don't force feed you, but I think the piece of being on the campus and what you can get out of it all at once, without hopping on a subway, without hopping into a car with mom or dad, without taking away from sibling battles, any of those elements, I think it's really a unique landscape where there's still that joy. And I always think of like our batting cage that we are pretty efficient. It can be done in about an hour and a half. And that extra half hour when the time is open in the gym is like our kids are playing pickup basketball. And I think of those clubhouse moments where in the winter, our kids are like they're hitting and having joy, and I'm just like hanging out playing music, and for 30 minutes, then kids are playing basketball with each other. And I just think that's where some athletes we've lost that part in sports, where in the spring it's going to be much more structured. Your practice plans are going to be, right, we're going to have transition times down to a T. We're going to know where the buckets are, the screens are. Like collegiately, all the guys on this screen, we run a damn good practice, right? That's why we win in our games. And so you get treated like a college baseball player, and you also are going to have this individual buy into your own development that comes from you and is what you're driving in the fall and the winter. And I think that, the price tag can be steep, but as Ty referenced, the need-based aid, it's very similar to like Ivy Leagues or NESCAC recruitment stories at our schools. And there's also a giant landscape of our schools that offer a variety. But I'd say student athlete is definitely the primary way in, and then community is what you get as a result out of it.
This is great. I'm loving this one. I'm going to ask you this one, Andrew, even though I guess amount of time spent at these schools, you're the rook here, but
Yeah.
and obviously you have a good coaching background. But I wanted to ask this question in one of two ways, and maybe all of you do chime in. Either what percentage or what reasons does someone come to your school starting in ninth grade, stay through? What percentage of kids come in as a reclass, and what reasons for that? And then what percentage of kids and what reasons do they come as a postgrad? So I guess I'll just throw that open-ended
Yeah.
question to you. Starting there, come in as a reclass or postgrad, how what do you have a feeling of how that breakdown actually is at your school?
So I don't know the school in general. It's tough to put a number on.
I'm talking baseball
Yeah.
specifically.
On our team, we're close to 90% have reclass. And usually that's happening when they're coming here. A few of them may be reclassed before they came here, but most of our team is coming in here as a reclass, and this is kind of an opportunity just to really keep their recruiting window open a little bit longer. I think it happens, like I said, it happens across all grades. The post grad route is usually, I feel like a lot of times is like it's a player with an injury, or maybe they had some Division III offers, but they feel like if they can gain a few miles per hour, they can be a D1 guy, or varying reasons. But I think that right now, with what we're seeing in college baseball, I mean, like I said earlier, the average age, I think Baseball America came out, article came out the other day, like the average age of a freshman playing college baseball is higher than ever before.
Absolutely.
And so I think kids are just trying to buy themselves a little bit more time. And right now, when I'm meeting with players and families, like I try to really allow that to be a family decision on, if they want to come here straight from, maybe ninth to 10th, or if they want to come here as a repeat. Like I really try to let that be a family decision, because there is a cost attached to that, quite frankly, like paying another year. But I do think from a baseball standpoint, I think for the most part it makes more sense. And for the most part, I think it makes more sense for guys to reclass. I mean, we've had the stories of success are a lot of times players that had some maybe small Division I offers, maybe as a junior, and then they decide to reclass, and then all of a sudden that opens up bigger and bigger school potential. So I would say that's kind of where things certainly tend to be heading, but it definitely changes by grade as well. In terms of how we try to like build a roster, I really look at like the post grads and the juniors as kind of like free agents, and we're trying to maybe target specific needs. And most of those juniors are coming in as reclass juniors. And we're trying to target maybe specific needs, like we're graduating a catcher or starting pitching or shortstop or those kinds of things. Where the younger kids, particularly the freshmen, like I kind of view those as like almost like got your draft class. Like it doesn't matter how many shortstops we bring in. Like we're just looking for the best athletes, and we'll kind of figure it out later on. And so
I
that's
love
kind of how
that.
we kind of
That's
go.
really helpful. That's really smart to think about
And
it
I feel
that
like
way.
the 10th grade is kind of that in between. Some of those guys might be more of, depending on whether reclassing or not, would kind of fall into a different bucket. But that's kind of how we try to build our overall roster. And then a lot of players know that if they're coming in as a freshman, and they have a reclass, like they always have the potential to do a post grad at one of these guys' schools or something like that as well. So that's where it becomes kind of a family decision, and a lot of times it's academic as well. Maybe they just feel like, hey, like my son is doing so well academically, it does not make sense for him to reclass. If we need to, from a baseball standpoint, maybe they'll look at a post grad route down the line. Where a lot of times the academic piece is another layer to it. So sometimes it's baseball, sometimes it's they may need to do that just to kind of up their academic standing. So there's a lot of different layers that come to it, but I would just say like we're at a point where now where it feels like 90% of our team is probably reclass.
I'm going to make one comment, and anyone wants to add to that, feel free. Not only is college baseball now older, college baseball's bigger. I mean, players are bigger, they weigh more, they're more mature. So it's, of course, maybe that comes with age, but like I did someone was on recently, I think it was Chris Marks from Campbell, who said the average weight in the College World Series last year was 208 pounds. So like it's adult males playing at these higher levels for sure. So if this kid, we know, I mean, all of us here probably physically matured significantly at that age too. So does anyone else want to add into that?
Can I
Go
say
ahead,
one more
Andrew.
thing?
Of course you can. Yep.
I saw something the other day. I forget who it was. It was a college coach saying like they're not recruiting kids. This is a power forward coach saying like they're not recruiting kids unless they look like they can already play physically at that level. Like that's like I think the age of like recruiting projectability, I think is not there. 10 years ago, like you might take a shot on a kid and like, well, if he develops, if he gets bigger, faster, stronger, then he could be at 95 miles per hour. Now it's like they're recruiting a much higher ceiling than ever before.
No question. Yeah, because they're comparing that high school kid to a portal kid who's got experience and proven they can do it. So if they're going, if listen, if the five of us were coaches at Florida State and our jobs are on the line by not winning, and we need a catcher, we're probably going to take a 22-year-old with 3 years of college experience. Then we're going to take a 17-year-old with no college experience. And that's the nature of that's not the way all colleges operate, but that's the way the big boys operate. But
Well,
would
Wayne,
anyone, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, Donnie.
if you think so, when I was speaking with Davis at the clinic, what was really cool when we were talking was he's a senior at Yale, grad transfer student, and I have a senior right now who's at Loomis, who's Ulysses Pichardo was an all league kid for us last year, honorable mention, and Davis tore his ACL as a junior, so he has 1 year of freedom to go play wherever. He is literally from the same high school, right? Gone to Loomis for 4 years, played on varsity baseball for 4 years, like same kids, right? They are now competing for the same exact spot in this year's recruitment class, and so Davis ends up right going. He's committing to go off to play Power Four baseball, and Ulysses is going to play at Hofstra. So still, right, great program, nailed it. But it was incredible for me to think about. We won in 22 with this kid, and now this kid who hasn't even played his senior year is competing for him for the same exact position in college baseball this season. Like this
Yeah,
upcoming spring is just crazy to like it literally just anecdotally covers all of where your mind could go in the transfer portal world.
that's a great point. All right, unless someone wants to, Todd, did you want to
Yeah, the
jump
only
in?
other thing I just wanted to jump in really quickly, and I thought Andrew did a great job describing that. I want to echo everything he says, but the only comment I've ever had from students is that if they came as a repeat junior or post grad, is that they wish they did it sooner. So I've never had a student that came and said, "Oh, I wish I waited an extra year," but I have had students that again realized they need to reclass a little bit later in the high school process and came either as a repeat junior or as a post grad, and when they kind of walk across that line at graduation, they'll just say, their only regret is they wish they came earlier. So I think that's just the only piece that I wanted to add. But Andrew really described that.
That's it, Todd. That's a great addition to point. You're right. Yeah, they wish they would have come earlier for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this next question, Ty. I'm going to have you kick it off, and maybe everyone jumps into this one. But what role do you guys play as their coaches in the recruiting process? So is that are you evaluating them and saying, "Hey, in my experience, this is the level that I think is right for you"? Are you calling college coaches on their behalf? What role do you guys play in that process?
Yeah, so just to go off of what Donnie said earlier, which was kind of a one-stop shop. I mean, I know you're in the business of advising, and I think what kids get, at least with the four of us, is some level of advising and consulting on the recruiting front. Certainly, it can help to have a dedicated person like yourself, whose sole job is to help these guys get to the next level and who knows a ton of coaches. I often talk to kids and their families about using what's built in here with our coaching staff, but also, we work well with advisors like yourself, and teaming up is going to give you a great chance. But what I would say that we do, it's a little bit unique here in that my full-time job is doing all the video for the school. So I have the equipment to be able to put guys on video, combine that with we're fortunate enough to have TrackMan. So for pitchers and hitters alike, we're able to combine data with video and send that off to college coaches. And of course, doing it as long as the four of us have, you build up a network of college coaches where you're able to say, hey, this is what I have here, strong student, tell me what you think. And I think the best that we can do is present those contacts with guys, and they're going to know, one, they're in a good program that runs like a college program, right? Two, they're getting challenged academically. Three, especially if they're a boarder, that transition into college is going to be a huge advantage for that student athlete over a kid coming from public school, just because they're already managing their time and basically living on their own. Right. So that's a huge help. And across the Division 1, 2, and 3 levels, coaches are reaching out and saying, who do you have at this point? It's in the 2027 class. And just to get a feel for, hey, who should we come out and see this spring? Who should be on our radar? That kind of thing. So here we're putting kids on video. We're combining that with the data, reaching out to college coaches via text, email, and then if it gets serious enough, certainly phone calls. And also providing between the four coaches that we have on staff some level of, hey, we think you can play here, but certainly if you would like to shoot higher than that, we can reach out to college coaches. And the best thing that I can do for you is guarantee that we're going to get some feedback. I don't push guys to certain places or tell college coaches, hey, you should really take this kid. But I can certainly provide the kids and their families with the honest feedback. And I think that's kind of the name of the game, so they can hear it from a coach who's at maybe the Division 1 level saying, hey, great kid, like a lot of things, but maybe not going to work out here.
Yeah, I want to jump in with two things because I would like to hear from you other guys. Two things you said that I love. Certainly from my side as an advisor, if someone's got it all set in their end, God bless you, right? But and if you're crazy good, and we've all had crazy good guys, you don't really need any advisor, right?
Right.
But I also think in this modern world of how crazy it's gotten, unless you get some inside help of even knowing what to do or knowing some people that know somebody, it's really, really difficult. But you said something, Ty, that I say to all the people before they hire me is, dude, I can't tell you if I can get you recruited at these places. I can tell you I will let you know what they think about you. Most of these kids go all these camps and these are on these teams and I'm like, well, hey, in 2025, what feedback did you hear? Nothing. Well, what do we, right. Even if I'm breaking their heart and Duke tells me this kid can't play here, that's good feedback, right? So I echo that so much that for these kids to know where they actually stand in this process is half the battle, because most of them just get camp invites from Vandy and think they're possibly going to get recruited to Vandy. They don't have any, and they turn down Franklin and Marshall, which is a great place to play college baseball,
One thing I would just add before somebody else can jump in is I know for a fact that even guys on this call, these other coaches and some of my other colleagues in the league, it's a great opportunity too to pick up the phone and call Andrew and say, I'm really trying to place this 2026. And in that case, we're not competing. We're both trying to help that kid. So he might say to me, I talked to, you should call this coach because he was looking for an outfielder and our guys are all set. Or I'm sure I could do the same thing with Todd or with Donnie, and they could do the same thing with me. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to do what's best for the kids. And that includes helping place them in college, even if it's, just networking with guys you usually compete against, right?
Great point. All right, who else wants to jump in there?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I think Ty hit on the head. Like you have to have a relationship with advisors, with the travel coach. Like so much of our job is kind of navigating those relationships. And for us, like baseball is unique where our guys will go play for other people during the summer. Like we don't play for them all year round. And so the summer, like a big part of my job is trying to find out, hey, when are you playing and what field are you going to be at? And then trying to communicate that to college coaches that want to go see them. But I tell our players, I mean, like for the most part, the spring season is really just about kind of creating some buzz. Like we want to try to create some interest, create some buzz, the power of social media, putting out video and updating college coaches on how you're doing is really important. Like for me, the spring season is just make them want to go see you in the summer. We're fortunate, like to Donnie's point earlier, like our league going to the Monday games, I think is awesome. And so that's sometimes we're able to get college coaches out there, which is great. For the most part, that's going to be like their first time seeing a guy, and they're going to want to go see him again in the summer. And that's when really kind of that final decision and offers and things like that are going to be made. So I try to work with our guys and just trying to create the buzz, create the interest, go put up numbers, show that you can produce quality stats, and you're just dominating, and really good league. You're putting up good numbers in a really good league. And then the summer is kind of navigating with the travel coach or advisor, depending on the player, and just kind of trying to help a lot from the back, kind of back channel conversations, and just trying to, like I said, find out how we can get those college coaches to go see those guys again.
Great. Donnie or Todd want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are really eloquently answered. I think the biggest piece is like the summertime they're going to play for their exposure, and I think that, as Ty's talking about too, the advisor is such an important role now. The travel coaches who have them in the summer being clear communicators, like as long as you can help a kid facilitate communication, I think that's really the biggest point of emphasis. I think we provide guidance and we facilitate more communication. I think it's, having a roadmap. And I love that question. And I one of my favorite experiences is I had three different Division I players touring a repeat junior looking at the school, and the kid was like, well, so how do you guys get recruited? And all three of them had a very different journey. And so they all answered with like a totally drastically different journey to their Division I placement. And it was like so great that they all thought exactly what they did was the right way to go,
That's a
and
great
it's like,
point.
yeah, that's right. For your family in that moment, that was exactly how it all was supposed to play out. And everyone has the kid who right away looks like they come in and they're repeat ninth graders and they're playing for you at third base, and the kid is a power forward player. It's happening, right? And then we also have the kid who comes in at 5'4", 200, or 120 pounds soaking wet, and that kid's going to be a Division I baseball player. And so figuring out how you have both of those players in your program, the advice you give is generic in facilitating conversations, and then it's all right now as we're choosing when and how to send out video, who to present to. That little guy has to go to the same camp 3 times in a row so they see his growth.
Right.
It's different than the kid who is 6'4" and is choosing which school he wants to go to outright. So I think those are conversations that obviously you have, and I think choosing the right cabinet is really important, and understanding what assets you have around you as a family. At these schools, you have a lot of really adequate baseball coaches, and so you're going to have college counselors, you're going to have college consultants. It's just using your cabinet and then understanding, the feedback that is coming back, and really trying to understand and comprehend it honestly too.
Yeah, Todd.
I think the only other thing that I would add is, and this is similar to what you do, is that, at prep schools, we have enough, for lack of a better term, street cred, that if we're going to call a certain coach about a certain kid, they know I'm not going to waste their time. And they know that I'm going to be upfront and honest about the type of player he is and type of kid he is. And more often than not, when I have those conversations with college coaches, when they arrive in the fall, I'll get a call back from that coach saying he's exactly what you told us he was going to be. And I think, that's one of the important pieces, is that where other people may, sell something that may not be, the case. I think, the prep school coaches truly, are able to match the player with the school, pretty well. And it doesn't always work out 100% of the time, and kids transfer and things happen. But I think for the most part, we're able to help match that, and not waste the college coach's time when we have those conversations.
Yeah, no, and I think you four, you could say, there's other good prep school coaches, of course, but I think you four are on here because of your backgrounds and you good. I mean, you all played and coached, and you have a legit understanding, and you do have that street credibility. I think this is a good time to end it, because just based on time, there's certainly more things we could cover. And in fact, who knows, I might get enough feedback that maybe we put another one of these type of things together to tackle some of the other things. But I will I've gotten adept at these show notes, which is why I asked all of you guys for the contact information. So someone that will see this on YouTube or listen to it on any podcast format will get all the ways to reach out to you. However, Todd, I'll start with you. If somebody is listening to this that would like to know more about Canterbury, either if you want to give out one thing, whether you want it to be your email or the school, your baseball social media, or just the school website, whatever you think, if someone wants to learn more about you, the program, or the school, what's the best way they should go about it?
Yeah, I would say if they just email me, tmathewson@cberry.org, that's the best way to start the, initial communication. And, if they can, put a little video in there and, give a little bit of background, and then we'll certainly, follow up with that player and their family. Twitter is what we use, the most still. So, @CBerry Baseball, and that's where, if guys, I just retweeted about a kid at the pro case yesterday, or, different things like that. So, that's just @CBerry Baseball. So definitely follow us on Twitter. So I would say those are probably the two best ways, is either emailing me directly or following us on Twitter.
Perfect.
Or
Ty?
Yeah, I would just say you can find more about our program on our website, westminster-school.org. My email's on there, and then I think the show notes will point to our Twitter, which is @WestEBSB. So those are the best ways, and I echo what Todd said. Send along a note, some video if you're interested, and we'll take it from there.
Donnie?
Yep, I would say email as well, Donnie, DONNIE_McKillop, MCKILLOP @loomis.org. And I'm pretty active on X as well, and Instagram, all that stuff. So wherever you get guided, and then very reachable on cell phone too. So we'll be quick to share that. Yeah, definitely. And as I think Todd was saying too, the ninth grade class is also the most number of spots that are open at our school. So I think when kids are thinking about the reclassing and what time to enter, we also, if you think about it, want as many kids as possible here for the 4-year experience at the community. So if you're an 8th grader or a ninth grader and looking to reclass or enter a high school with an all-inclusive environment, I think that is really the entry point that we really love at Loomis the most, because the beds are less and less as you get older and older. And we do respect our ninth graders that we're developing here. I think that's, we're one thing that all of us coaches in this program, we really do develop cultures in our programs. And so doing the ninth grade piece for us, the juniors and PGs, none of the schools in this foursome that you entered are in the kind of the renegade phase. We're not parking lot jersey guys. We're people who are, 4-year developers and believe in program culture, and we follow our guys through college, and it matters. I think those things are really important. So early on in ninth grade, and you got my contact, so thank you.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, it's something to really, there's enough to cover to run a whole nother episode.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things was going to be, you're not taking every kid that reaches out. I mean,
No.
and every
Prep
post
school landscape, yeah.
Yeah, and you have a limit of postgrads and all these various things. So that's, there's a recruiting piece on the other side we could talk about, and success stories and all these different things. But Andrew, let's go to you about how you want them to contact you.
Yeah, email is the best way. I think we all live on our email most days anyway. So adixon@choate.edu. Certainly can follow us on all of the social media, Choate Varsity Baseball on Instagram and Twitter as well. And those are great places. But really appreciate you organizing this and having us on. This was awesome.
It was great to have you guys. And I'll just say finally, I had done this right after it happened, but obviously just wanted to mention Kevin Huber's passing. I know some of you, were real close to Kevin and saw some of you at the celebration of life thing. And what a shame, just a great, like, obviously you guys are great people and great mentors and great baseball, but like he fit that, and just to lose him shockingly at age 50 was, sad. So I just wanted to say a word to remember him. I know you all echo that sentiment. Yes, exactly, for sure. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It was really special having you guys on, and we'll talk soon for sure.
Thanks, Wayno.
Thanks,
Matt.
guys.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode with Andrew Dixon from Choate, Ty Wosleger from Westminster, Todd Mathewson from Canterbury, and Donnie McKillop from Loomis Chaffee. Again, I'm your host, Wayne Mazzoni. Hope you enjoyed and were educated on the process of what life is like at prep school, should you be considering it. If you go to the show notes, the way to reach all these coaches and school information will be there, whether you're watching on YouTube, on my website, or listening on any podcast piece. You will see a way to contact each one of these schools. Our upcoming programs or upcoming podcasts are, next one will be Matt Reynolds, who's the head baseball coach at Wesleyan. And after that is Dan 𝐟𝐸𝐾, head baseball coach at Murray State. And we hope to see you on those as well. So thank you so much and be well.